First of all, we'd like to welcome you to the Diversified Planning Solutions Mentoring Forum. And this forum is sponsored by California Lutheran University's Financial Planning Program. So we have an MBA in Financial Planning here at California Lutheran, and also a Master's of Science in Financial Planning. Just wanted to bring it to your attention. Most of the people here today are aware of the 2 degrees, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but the MBA degree provides students with the skills needed to transform a planning practice into a planning business or pursue leadership positions within a firm. And the MS is designed for those who specialize in a particular aspect of financial planning or wealth management by choosing a variety of elective courses. So those are our 2 degrees. And then I'm going to turn it over to Terry so that you can introduce our speaker today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cindy. Today we have the pleasure of being able to share ideas with and hear from Jeffrey Lang. He is the Director of Supervision for the Southeast Division and a financial planner of Lincoln Financial Advisors. He attended Towson University in Baltimore, Maryland. He received his CFP designation from the College for Financial Planning in 1984. He's also earned a Chartered Leadership Fellow and Chartered Life Underwriter designation from the American College. He attended the Richard D. Irwin Graduate School at the American College, where he earned a Master of Science in Financial Services degree. In '92, he earned a Master of Science in Management degree, a Chartered Leadership Fellow designation in 2004, and a Chartered Life Underwriter designation in 2012. He's a PhD candidate in the Financial and Retirement Planning Program at the American College. So he has plenty of education, and we're excited that he's going to share that and his experiences with us. He is an adjunct faculty member for professional studies for the CFP program at University of Baltimore. And he's frequently invited as a guest lecturer at the American College, the University of Maryland, the University of Baltimore, and as well as professional associations. So he also served as the Financial Planning Association of Maryland's president in 2003 and a chairman in 2004. So last week, we learned a bit about establishing good communication between clients and advisors, learning to ask the right questions, and in my mind, sort of framed the relationship to facilitate buy-in for an effective, personalized communication process. So today we extend that conversation. And so Jeff, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Listen, I appreciate it. I'm exhausted. I must have done a lot over a long period of time. That's all I can tell you. That was an awful lot of stuff. Anyway, so the other thing that is not on there is I was a personal practitioner for 42 years. So all of the stuff that I did, like everybody else, I made mistakes, and I kept making them over and over because I knew I was right. I know you all will probably recognize that. So what I wanted to do today is, since we are building on the conversation of why do we communicate, how do we, and when I say how do we communicate, it was really the method. Is it email, face-to-face meetings, WebEx, etc. Today I wanted to talk about, see if I can manage this fluidly here. So please, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, keep going forward. Somebody's managing it for me. Yeah, I want to get to the ways to persuade, if I could, which is number 7 and number 8. So if you could do it, so we're almost there. Perfectly. Thank you. Back one. There you go. So I don't want to read all this other stuff. Let's go. Okay. So here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell you there are a couple of really major opportunities here for us to see how we are persuaded and how we might use those same techniques to persuade others. So my favorite in this conversation is anchoring. Anchoring is about the first information. And car dealers will tell you that when you say how much you want to pay for a car, people just, they blurt out a number. And I tell you what, it is a really good measure as to where we're going to end up. It frames the question. After the conversation is that I don't know the name of the fellow who does the commercials are you, I guess it's Allstate. Are you in good hands? I don't know the name of that guy, but I certainly know James Earl Jones. And a deep voice is equating to an alpha, somebody in authority. And so the question is, do we use that? No, mostly we use accent. You know, a lot of the folks that do the commercials today are sporting a British accent, which again, so is supposed to be, you know, it's like, was that Cumberbatch? You know, we got all these people who, and we are influenced by that. They have a feeling of authority. So we could also say, well, I saw it on TV, so it must be right. And everybody knows that everything on the internet is true, right? So we could say, well, you know, I read this one article, it was on the internet, and it's supposed to sway us in some way. Let's go down to brand yourself, Harvard. If you don't watch the news lately, you know, this issue of signal theory. You know, if I drive a Mercedes or I go to Harvard or you know, I have a you know, a Rolex. You know, we use just the names to connect, and so sometimes they can persuade. I went and put a jacket on because I knew that if I were sitting around in a pair of blue jeans, that it would affect our message together. It doesn't, but it might, because we were always told that people who knew anything looked like this, or anybody who could provide value looked like that. Next slide, please. By the way, I was so terribly over last time, I kind of feel a little conscious today. Want to talk about stuff, but I don't want to take the whole time. So anybody ever heard of, and if you wouldn't mind in the chat box, have you ever heard of J.G. Wentworth in the chat box? And if you have, can you repeat to me what their statement is? They say over and over and over again. Can you help me with that? So while you're typing it, let me just tell you, they have this thing. These, by the way, if you don't know who J.G. Wentworth is, they're the people who will factor receivables personally. And so if you were injured in an accident, they would give you this money over time. You want it all at once, you'd do that. They have a statement, and they keep saying, it's my money, and I want it now. They say it over and over and over again. So the power of repetition works for them. It's my money, and I want it now. Right, exactly. And so why do we know that? We know that because they know that by concisely stating what their business is. My money now. This is what they want to do. So it's a very important conversation to have. So if you wouldn't mind, go back one slide. I think I'm one too far, please. Thank you. So we're gonna use simple language. We're going to try to use the smallest number of syllables. We're going to be able to say it quickly. And we're going to impute efficiency in that. Now, we also might talk about extremes. At the very height of the market, you know, I listened to a guy once, you know, this guy, an investor guy, his name was Buffett. He was amazing. Ernie Buffett, you know him, right? Well, nobody knows of Ernie Buffett. Everybody knows of Warren Buffett. And so we would talk about how good it could be, or worse, how bad it could be. And we found out that how bad it could be is generally 3 times as potent as how good it could be. So if I say that there's a 30% chance of something good happening, all you hear is the 70% of something not so good happening. And it would be very important for us to know when we naturally use the fear of loss. Somebody else has more, somebody else has enough, somebody else lost their ticket. So we might even appeal to authority. I don't know if anybody on the call knows who E-Money is. E-Money has some of the, it's a good program. It's a financial planning software, and it has some screen scraping technology, meaning you could have your statements brought up, and they're current, and they basically access all these places. They stick them together. But what's really exciting about what these people do is they have Donald Sutherland or Tom, who's Magnum PI? What's his name? Come on, in the chat box, you can help me out.
Selleck?
Anyway, so they,
Tom Selleck?
That's the guy. So Tom says, and by the way, it's very easy and very slowly voiced, slow voice. He goes, I used to have a little box, a little cigar box for all the things that were important to me as a kid. I used to put all my baseball cards and really important things, and I put them in my box. Well, as I got older, I got more stuff. So now I need a bigger box. He's got that voice that you just want to trust. And so what happens is they have this simple message, and they make it accessible. So Tom Selleck and Donald Sutherland, again, great voice, right? He's the guy from Or what was that called? That movie? You know, where the lady had the arrows. Do you remember who that was? You guys just don't watch movies, do you? I know you know what I'm talking about. It was a pretty big epic movie, and of course he's got that great voice. Of course, he also has this great beard too. So we'll get there. So anyway, the point of all that is to say that it was a calm, male, authoritative voice that wasn't looking to tell you what to do, but to tell you that you could make choices if you wanted. And by the way, Tom also does these things about the reverse mortgages. Well, you know, I used to think it was complicated and people were just trying to take my house, he says. There was, you know, once I read it, I really, it wasn't bad at all. In fact, so he's bringing you. So first of all, he's appealing to greed and loss, right? And of course, he's the celebrity endorsement. Everybody knows he's trustworthy as a character, which is interesting. And then he has this voice that just brings you along. Sometimes he uses the power of repetition, but he also says everybody has a house and everybody is growing older. And so he comes up with the generally accepted norms. This is just the way it is. The other thing, if you don't mind, I'm not going to deal with limited time only. Let's go to the next slide. And I'm almost finished, I think. I just want to kind of tweak you a little bit because these are cool. So let's talk about reciprocity, but let's talk about it in a way that maybe you haven't thought about it before. So you're sitting in a dining experience with your loved ones and you're about to go and your server brings over a mint with the bill. Believe it or not, that's worth, that alone is worth 3% more. And then if they kind of bring you something special, like, hey, could I get you a box to take that home? You're going to give them 14%. And if they come over and they bring the manager or they bring over, they look like they maybe have forgotten something, and they come over and make it a personal deal, 23% increase in tips. Reciprocity. I do something nice for you. You're obligated to do something nice for me. So if I ask you, hey, did you want some ketchup? You go, no, thanks. I've already created this idea of psychological reciprocity. Even though you didn't want what I asked you, if you cared for, I did something nice for you, and you're almost obligated to say something nice about my tie or something, right? So this reciprocity is a big deal. It could be very small, but also if I give you a gift of some sort, by the way, a coupon, you know, we end up with commitment and consistency. I have a foot in the door. I get you to do one small thing. I get to ask you to do something a little bigger next time, and you don't perceive an increase. Another way to proceed to persuade people is to recognize how we're similar. We don't have to be exactly the same, but people like dealing with people like themselves, and that would be an important thing. So how do you recognize that? Well, you can't say, wow, Jeff went to Towson, you went to Towson, wow, that's great. But somebody else could say it. My bio could say it. My staff could say it. The person who referred me could say it. Wow, did you know that Jeff taught that class? Oh, no, I didn't know that. So having somebody tell your story in that way and to raise you up a little bit, either by capability or personality or by background or finding the similarities, is a very big deal. People generally like to do business with people like themselves. Of course, there's the authority issue, which is the effective compliance. My deal is that there are certain things that must be done, but we don't have to make them difficult. You know, in housing and in cars, there are certain certifications that have to be done, but the way that you package them could be important. So that's a big deal. So anyway, so the last thing I wanted to mention is, if I could, is just to simply say that praise is one of the very best ways to find similarity. Find something that you recognize in others and praise them sincerely, and you will create an environment of trust, which is really what all this is about. Well, I think I'll probably beat up my 10 minutes, and so I'm going to be quiet.
So let's go ahead, Terry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say wonderful and see if anyone had any questions or needed any clarification.
I just have a quick comment. Tom Selleck is one of those people that people really trust, and you're right about that. You know, he lives in this area, where we're located, and you see him around every once in a while and stuff. And, you just have a lot of respect for him. So.
Isn't that nice? You feel like he's a neighbor, but he's like us. And so I like that everyman nature about him. And I love the way that feels. And I'm right with you. And I think that's important. One of the things that is surprising is how uncomfortable they are being noticed. And so I have some celebrity friends, and whenever I'm hanging with them, I don't make a big deal out of it. They're just like everybody else. And they want to be that way. They want to be able to wash their car in peace like other people. But if they're always on, they won't leave the house. And so there is a downside to fame. I know you all probably already know that, but it'd be very important for us to say. And I love the fact that, what I find interesting about Tom and for Mr. Sutherland is that they're growing old just like we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they might have the same problems or the same questions or the same challenges as we do. And I don't know, for some reason that makes me feel like a we and not like a they and that kind of thing. But anyway, so in conclusion, I will tell you that the issue about persuasion is that most of us look at it as how we could persuade others. I'm more interested in looking at it to see how I am persuaded. What is my currency? When a person who is going to serve me tells me their name, you can count on a significantly higher tip than if I have to ask them what their name is. Does that make sense?
That does.
So finding out how we are motivated, it simply makes it easier for us to speak that same language because we may be struggling too hard to figure out how other people are motivated, unless, of course, we ask them.
When you turn around and you're in a networking setting and stuff, and when you go up to somebody and introduce yourself, that's greatly appreciated by them, so that they know who you are right off the bat.
Well, I think that's a great idea. I heard something a number of years ago that I hadn't thought of, and they said, why, usually would say, you come up and you say, hi, I'm Jeff, why are you here? So you can figure out where they are. How would it be if you said, who are you here for? And so it was, well, I'm here for my kids, or I'm here to learn, or I'm here for, I was invited by Vivian. She's over in the corner, working on some relationships. And so who are you here for? Might even change the game. And as I said last time, it's a favorite conversation. And somebody says, what do you need to see, hear, understand to feel comfortable about moving forward? Moving forward could be something as simple as continuing this conversation. So I love the idea of figuring out whether they're auditory or kinesthetic or visual, and because maybe we have a similar style. Because you'll find yourself talking with somebody and you find out your style is like theirs, and it's like old home week. It's like you've known these people for years because we're talking the same language. And for others, it's just stilted. It's difficult. It's work, frankly. And who wants to spend their entire working life working? Wouldn't you rather be with people who make you feel good?
So true.
Listen, thank you for the invitation. I'm going to go silent and listen to the rest of the conversation.
Well, I do have a question. I think when I think of persuasion, I have a different feel. It has a different feel than the word manipulation. As practitioners, how, one, is that intentional in the title of this presentation? And two, as practitioners, how do we avoid maybe going over to sort of moving from persuasion to manipulation in a sort of negative or unethical sense? How do we check ourselves so that we don't go that route?
Well, I appreciate that. By the way, I was told that the title was what it was, so I had to clear that up. I'm very coachable, and so that was the first thing. But as I looked, I had the same feeling. My stomach hurt a little bit. Manipulation is so far outside of my comfort zone. But even persuasion makes me feel like I'm selling somebody something, and that's not always comfortable. So here's I'm going to reverse it only because I think we can answer the other question in the way that's most comfortable for us. Here's the point. You need life insurance. I know you need life insurance, but you're uncomfortable. You don't know enough about it. You think I'm trying to sell you something, but I know in my heart of hearts that your family would benefit greatly by at least considering getting some life insurance. So what is okay for me to do to get you to do that? I mean, so I think that it may be uncomfortable to you, but it may be necessary for me to bring you a line. I'm not sure whether a lot of people know this, but I'm very good at math, and I can tell you that 100% of the people that I know will die. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, everybody will die. The question is when, and if so, what is the financial impact? How do you measure that? Not everybody's an athlete, right? Not everybody's very numerate, as I mentioned before. And so the question is is it because I've taken you out of your comfort zone? Does that make me unethical? Does that make me cross over from persuasion and manipulation? You know, there may be some issues. Now, I find it very interesting that some of the best salespeople I've ever met have said, listen, if I were another person and I were trying to yank you around, I would say this, this, and this. I'm not doing that. Set that aside. The question is, and I have to say this in a very careful way. I talk to people about divorce and divorcing, you know, a lot. And I've had some really hard conversations with people about finances and their children and this kind of thing. And I had one guy said, I don't want to buy life insurance for my wife. I said, no problem. And so the only issue is he didn't want to buy life insurance on himself to make sure that his kids were okay. I just said, here's my question. How long do you think your wife, ex-wife, widow, should take before she finds a financial capacity to take care of your kids? See, she can't marry for love, and she can't date, and she can't mourn, and she can't be okay because you decided unilaterally to be a cheapskate. Okay, your deal was you don't want to talk about death and dying, but now she doesn't have the latitude to find the next other parent for your kids, which will last forever. Now, is that manipulative? Terry, what do you think? Is that too hard?
No, it's interesting. It's I don't think it's too difficult. I think it goes back to what you talked about last week and how we need to carefully consider how our clients like to communicate and zero in, as we all know, on what are the hot button issues that they care about. So how we couch that will probably dictate whether or not it's a good approach or a bad approach.
Well, agreed. And you know what? You're exactly right. Maybe the people I'm talking to would feel comfortable or not. So here's my answer, by the way, after 42 years of practice. Listen, I don't know that you can even qualify. What I'd like you to do is commit to applying for the insurance because you're not getting any younger, any healthier. Let's see if it's even an option on the table. Once it's real, you can accept or reject. I leave that to you. But I'd like to get you underwritten so that it's a possibility. We've gone through the exercise only to find out that it was not an option. And it was heartbreaking because, you know, now they own it, right? Didn't want to do it before, but now they own it. Wow, I can't even get life insurance to take care of my kids. I know. So what do you think we should do? So anyway, that is because I've been a comprehensive planner for many, many years. And I think that there are some decisions that we make that are foundational and upon which we build the rest of their plan. But there's nothing more important. There's no investment that pays more than quality education properly applied for money. So I ask very clearly, hey, where's your budget for ongoing improvement? Because if you're not going to have life insurance, then your wife or the people in your family should have a capacity to be okay. And it shouldn't only be because they're going to go find another relationship to replace you as a person and you as an income stream. And again, it's a hard conversation. That's why death and dying is so difficult. But you know what? Being poor is not so fun either. So I wouldn't be so excited about that. Eating cat food. So nobody wants that. But anyway, so all I was suggesting in this case is that I would really rather we turn all this inward and say, here's how I'm comfortable. Are you? So imagine talking to somebody and say, listen, I don't want to talk about death and dying. Don't want to do that at all. But I have to do everything I can to make sure you have the information you need and the emotional security to have this conversation. If you decide not to move forward, I'll accept your answer. But I really feel obligated to give you all the information, all of the opportunities to take care of it now while you're younger and healthier, because it may not be an option in the future. Frankly, it may not be an option now, which is why I'd like you to get a conditional application in to see if it is even on our radar.
Good, thanks. Any other questions from anyone else?
Yeah, I'm going to do like we do in the classroom. Melissa, do you have any comments today or any questions? I see you're muted.
Sorry about that. I had to figure out how to unmute myself. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Glad you joined us today. How about you, Kelly? Do you have any comments or anything that you would like to add? Okay. How about you, Jared? Any comments you have or anything that you want to add or any questions?
He says he thinks he's good
Okay.
in the chat box.
All right.
Okay, I did get a question here. Said I'd like to hear what the speaker has to say about education versus persuasion. I use these techniques in management, not just with clients. Outstanding. So Department of Labor had this proposal, and they gave us a great gift, and I'm hoping that others will feel the same way. They distinguished very clearly between information, education, advice, and implementation. So I like the idea of saying, are you just looking for information? Because let's face it, if information was all we needed, everybody should be a genius because the internet is 30 years old and it's for free. So information by itself is not very valuable without context and framing. I think education is brilliant as long as the learning objectives are clear. So some of those objectives would be that people will make decisions. Some of those objectives in my mind is that they have the information they feel that they need in order to take action. So if 401ks, understanding the employee benefits and stuff, it's one thing to understand, it's another thing to take action. They don't generally give you an unlimited amount of time. They give you a short amount of time to do or not do. You elect or opt out, and that would be an important issue. But I believe that education properly done has a purpose. It has an outcome, and that's either to fill your brain so you can now make a decision, or to give you confidence so you can take action. Rebuttal?
Melissa, do you want to add anything? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Melissa.
I wanted to hear what you have to say as far as how do I tactfully explain when a behavior is exhibited by a client that you've already discussed and told the client not to do. Let's say they're just spending a bunch of money and you've already educated them as to why they should save money. How do these points apply to when you're not necessarily disciplining or persuading, but trying to teach?
Well, no, I love that. Okay, and here's what I found, and again, because I'm doing a fair amount of study, as you all will be doing, about behavior. And so the issue is, in my mind, that you can either educate and pray, which is that's an okay strategy. It's not mine. Mine is to automate. I have been in love with the same girl for 42 years. I'm still married to her, by the way. And here's the point: if the money comes in the door, and by the way, I'm not criticizing her. I'm criticizing me. If the money comes in the door, she feels that it's hers to spend on the life that we always dreamed we'd have together. So she is in the bucket for giving me the very best life that I can have. So if it comes home, that's the problem. So I believe that it's a pre-commitment conversation. So if you think that people are spending money, you got to take it from them in ways that they agree. You have to say, we're going to set this over here at savings. When you make a mistake at the end of the month, we'll look at the little bucket with the excess in it, and we're going to talk about whether or not we're on a path where we can do this. But here's the issue. I believe that people don't change their spending behaviors because they don't know of their why now versus their why later. Right. So right now they want to, go out to eat. They want to spend. They want to do what they want to do. And sometimes the answer is go make more money. I hate to tell you, but as financial advisor, I used to, in the latter part of my career, I would say, well, tell me what other thing are you going to do to get this extra $38,000 a year you're spending? Well, what do you mean? I said, well, you got to come up with the money somewhere. Because let me tell you where it's not coming from. It's not going to come from the retirement. It's not going to come from the rainy day fund. You got to come up with the money. I need you to come up with it. Well, then we should adjust the budget. Really? Really? Okay, so here's the point. What you're telling me is that you won't save, you won't invest, you won't protect yourself, and you won't have cash in case you have an emergency. It seems to me that you need to find $38,000 a year. All you. But I love the idea of pre-commitment. You can easily find 40 different ways, including payroll, to not have the money come home. You put it in these accounts, and of course, there's a whole theory called behavioral life cycle where we put little things in buckets. You know, that's my poker money, that's my birthday money, that's my Christmas fund, and the like. Now, the bad side of that is that you don't really look at the whole and make sure that it all performs well. But the good news is, at least I have something. So the answer in my mind is to break it into the smallest piece and to mitigate the money that is coming in. Now, when I began to do that early on, my wife found that our credit card monthly bills were going up. Now, we pay them off at the end of the month, but sometimes it was very easy to live the life that you always wanted to live. And my argument is this: let's tell the truth. You're not going to reduce your spending, so you need to be focused on getting more income. And boy, I tell you, you want to talk about change of behavior? Woo! Okay, because they weren't making bad choices. They just needed to make a lot more money to continue to make those choices.
Nice, that's great.
You know,
Little different, right?
Jolly has them. If somebody's overspending, she'll have them do a scavenger hunt, as she calls it, to look for where they could find extra money. And she finds that as a way of getting them to look at it differently and then change some of their behavior. But she gives them an assignment to do a scavenger hunt.
Nobody intentionally overspends, but they're not living the life they always dreamed of. And one of the ways that when Jolly is doing that, it's interesting because a lot of the stuff we don't value is sucking money out of our account. And we say, well, do you still value that? No, not anymore. Well, fix it. You know, I don't care if you're looking for $20. The key warranties on old things, for example, is a big deal. Not changing your deductibles on some of your coverage. You got plenty of money in the bank. I think you can afford another $500 if, right? So, and we have wonderful opportunities to do it. But I believe that and again, I actually did for over 30 years. I had lectures that began with the statement: anytime your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall. Where shall we start? So let me repeat it. Anytime your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall. Where shall we start? And they will tell you exactly. They know exactly where the frivolous stuff is and the stuff they don't care about is. They know exactly. And so now you're a partner, not a chastiser. You're not a warden. You're not their banker. You're not their mother. In my case, they call me their papa. And so the issue is that we're not any of that. We're a good friend that's going to watch you slowly be stressed into an early grave, or not accumulate the money that you said you wanted to accumulate to live the life you always dreamed of. And by the way, nobody will do things for themselves, but they will often do things for others. So what I am doing for my wife, because I promised I would, is far more than I would ever do for myself, because I feel legitimately unworthy. And I share that with you because, you know, a lot of this comes down to what I deserve. And so, and that's the conversation. But we assume that all people like themselves and that they love their spouse and their kids equally, and that they understand that they're making a choice for one of us and against the other. Make sense, or is that too heavy?
No, it's a good point.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. Any other questions before we finish up? So, well, thank you very much, Jeff, for taking the time today to join us. We appreciate your time, and I know that there's tidbits that everybody will take away with this. Today's forum was sponsored by California Lutheran University's financial planning program. The program is designed to provide two flexible degree programs, the MBA in financial planning and then the MS in financial planning. And we just wanted you to be aware of our programs here at CLU. And if you need any more information, don't hesitate to contact us. The information's up there. And with that, if there's not any more questions, we'll end for the day.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.